Welcome to CISSP training. We will be discussing followings throughout this course. Information security and risk management. Access control domain objectives. Cryptography objectives. Physical security objectives. Security architecture and design objectives. Law, investigation and ethics objectives. Telecommunications and networking. Business continuity objectives. Application security. Operations security objectives.
We're going to go over the common body of knowledge, which makes up the CISSP exam. And this is 10 full domains that we have listed. It's access control, information security, physical security, business continuity management. And this is really foundational information for you as a practitioner, either at a company, as a security consultant, as a business person who is responsible for any type of security within your environment. So it's a good coverage of all that touches security, because most people think security is just one thing, like a firewall, an IDS. They think it's very technical. But this exam is good because it covers all the components of security, and if you really get to know this information and not just study it to pass the exam, if you really know this information, it'll be useful to you out in the industry. Now, the exam itself has 250 questions, and they're not even high-tech yet. They've got, just like when you took the SAT test, you have to fill in those little bubbles. Now, 25 of the questions of the exam are not even going to be graded. They're new questions that they're kind of testing out to see if they're good questions or not. But you're not going to know which are going to be graded or which are not going to be graded. So overall, you have 250 questions that you need to answer in a 6-hour period. They give you a 6-hour period. Most people are done about 4.5 hours. There's nothing that you could take in for the exam, except if English is not your first language, you could take in a dictionary that goes from one language to English. And they're actually getting more strict about being able to take in cell phones or those types of things, so nobody's going to cheat. Now, a lot of people have heard about the CISSP exam, and after you take the CISSP exam, you'll be frustrated. There's not a person who's come out of this exam and has not been frustrated. And that's because there's two reasons that this exam is difficult. One is because it covers so much information. A lot of people may have a specialty in network security, or maybe they have a specialty in business continuity. But hardly anybody really knows all 10 domains: application security, operation security. So that's one reason that the exam is difficult, because of all the information it covers. Now, to be truthful, the other reason that it's difficult is the way the questions are written. They're not straightforward, they're a little tricky, and we're going to go through some questions to give you an example of what you can run into. But this is a very difficult exam. The questions are cognitive, which means that you can't just memorize a term and be able to answer a question. You actually not only have to understand the term and the concept, you have to apply it to something in the real world. So this is more of a cognitive test, which is why you need to know the information to a certain depth, instead of just skating over it and trying to study a month before you take it. Now, we will be going over all of these domains to quite a degree that most people don't get into. There's a lot of courses out there and a lot of products that don't get to the necessary level that you need, not only to pass the exam, but even understand the elements so you can use it out in the real world. So we will be going through these, and I'll be teaching you, giving analogies, giving you real-world scenarios, because that's important. Now, on exam day, you do have to have a picture ID, and they're going to require you to have a registration number to go in for the exam. And you want to make sure that you have signed up for the exam and you've got your registration number back, because every course I've ever taught somebody didn't get their registration number because ISC Squared sent it to the wrong address, or they sent it to the work address instead of home. So don't run into that issue. You have to have that registration ID before you could take this exam. Now, if you don't have enough experience, because to take a CISSP exam, you have to have 4 years of experience, or you can have a bachelor's degree. You can read through on their website, the requirements to actually sit for this exam. But if you don't have that much experience in information security, they have something that's called the associates, which means you could sit for the exam and then you can get the experience, and somebody has to sign off that you've actually got the experience. So people who are coming out of college that don't have the experience in the industry are taking and getting an associate's degree. So don't think that you don't have enough experience to be able to do this. There's a couple ways that you can approach it. Now, it's important if you're when studying for CISSP, this is it. This should take over your world for quite some time because of the amount of information, the complexity of some of the information. This should be your core topic and your core focus in life if you really want to pass this exam, because I know a lot of security professionals, very bright, very talented, very experienced, who have not passed it. So you need to take it seriously. Now, in this domain, it's information security and risk management. They used to call it security practices or security management practices. And we're going to go over kind of what they call the soft skills: development of policies, development of a risk management program, development of standards, and we're going to get into what security governance actually means and how to do a structure with that. We'll talk about the type of training and the type of awareness that needs to be in place. So in this domain, it's more of what a lot of people call the soft skills instead, because it's not overly technical. But this is where a lot of companies actually are moving into. A lot of companies have their head down in technology, and because of all the regulations, and now because security is a business issue, these things are much more important or get a lot more attention than they did in the past. So there's actually a gap in the industry of people who really know how to do these things compared to configuring a firewall or configuring a KDC or something like that. So this is important. You may think it's intuitive and you understand it, but when you actually have to put it into practice, a lot of people have a hard time because it's a new thing.